It is episode 66 of Mom's Basement MMA, and I haven't gotten canceled yet. YouTube is still letting me upload videos. I don't know why. And people, like my next guest, Joey von Blankenburg, are voluntarily coming to my show, and I'm very appreciative of that. Joey, thank you so much for being here. You are Oahu's own, man. So you're the first person that lives in Hawaii that's been on my show that still lives in Hawaii.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
So welcome.
Thank you,
And before I ask you about fighting this big bout that we got coming up, we got Thanksgiving coming up, right? Thanksgiving is tomorrow. Now, let's say you and me, we had to put together an obnoxious Thanksgiving dinner. And the goal of this is to start a fight as quick as we possibly can by inviting offensive guests. So I have a list of offensive fighters that we could list.
Oh, I like that.
And I want to just see... I want people to look at this and rate how well we did. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to invite the very first guest. Then I want you to invite one. And let's invite 6 people. Okay. I'll invite 3 and then you can invite 3.
Let's do it.
First one for me, Greg Hardy.
That's a perfect one. That'd be awesome.
The idea is we have to start fighting before the bird is even out of the oven. If we actually sit down, we've failed. So Greg Hardy... Can't imagine a lot of people like him. I think that's a good pick.
That is. That's a good first pick.
What about you?
Let's say Mike Perry.
Mike Perry. Okay, that's another good pick.
Right? Yeah.
That's another. Dylan Danis.
Okay, nice.
We'll go Bellator. That's my second.
I like that. Dylan Danis. Okay. Maybe a Nick Diaz.
Nick Diaz.
One
Okay.
Of the Diaz's. Yeah.
John Jones.
Oh, that's a good. Damn, that's a good one. John Jones. Oh, let me see. Who else do we have?
You got to make this one count.
Let's see. We got one more, right? You said?
Yep.
Oh, who am I? Tito Ortiz.
He's on my list.
He's on the list?
Yeah.
Hey,
I don't know if you saw it. Do you see it right there, Tito?
Bottom? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's awesome.
Freaking Tito Ortiz. That guy is a freaking quack.
God, yeah.
I don't have a problem saying it. And Tito, if you're watching this, get help, man. You used to be good, and you used to be a G, but get help. Okay, second thing. You have the coolest name of all time.
Right on, I appreciate it.
You really do. Joey von Blankenburg. And I have to tell you, there are 2 things that come to mind when I think about that name.
Yeah.
Number one, how old are you? Because I gotta see if we're roughly the same age.
31. I just turned 31.
Okay, so you're roughly in my ballpark. Okay. I got a few years on you, but when I if I talk about WWF, you will know what I'm talking about. At least have an idea.
Yeah, of course.
I feel old as shit doing this show sometimes because I talk about WWF and I get a blank look. What is that?
What? Oh,
yeah,
God, it's so sad.
So Joey von Blankenburg. That sounds like a perfect villain name.
Oh yeah, the heel, right?
A heel, yeah. You get in a singlet and you have a jerry curl that's all greased up. That's a perfect name for a bad guy. You don't even have to do anything.
Yeah, it's set. We're set.
The second one, your name, it's you're an oil mogul from the 1920s or something. That you're about to cash out on all the company stocks and create an economic crisis.
I'm ready.
So
that's hilarious.
I was thinking, we need a nickname. You don't have one. So you could simply be Joey the Heel von Blankenburg. I was thinking we can keep it very basic.
It's got a nice ring.
I like the heel, and it's a perfect gimmick. But I got the other one. This is back to my tycoon theme.
Okay.
We could call you the Last Baron.
Ooh, that's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, that's
right.
That's smooth.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the name of a Mastodon song. I don't know if anyone knows what Mastodon is, but if you know, you know. But dude, think about it. The Baron.
Yeah, I like that. The Baron.
The Last Baron, or we could just go with the Baron.
The Last Baron actually has a little more of a ring to it, I'd say.
I'd say too, man.
Right?
So, you know what? I give out these gifts, these nickname gifts. I give them out.
Take it.
I'm fantastic at it. Everyone agrees, even Joey. So, Joey, I want to ask you a little bit on a serious note.
Okay.
You are a Hawaiian kid. You're from Oahu. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful place. Having been there myself, there are a couple things that I could say about Oahu. I think there's like that face that me as like a tourist would see.
Hmm.
But there's another side of Hawaii that I think a lot of people that unless you're from there and unless you're ingrained in the culture, there's a big part of Hawaii that most people don't see.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And I want to get your perspective. I did have another Hawaiian on. I had Christian Natividad on not that long ago.
Hmm.
And he talked about when he talked about like mixed martial arts or just combat sports in general, like he told me, I'm paraphrasing him. I don't remember exactly what it was that he said, but it was basically
No.
like it's like ingrained in us as Hawaiians. It's just part of our
Yeah.
culture and like who we are. Can you expand on that? Can you talk a little bit about what is that connection that you have, and people in Oahu? Like, what is it about fighting that draws you to it?
I feel like it's like I said, it is definitely the culture. Like in the ancient Hawaiian days, there was definitely a warrior system, and there's definitely to this day, people who have that same bloodline that are kind of not to sound corny, but they're like made to fight, right? Like Max is a perfect example of one of those people. It's like you could just imagine generations ago, he probably had somebody on the battlefield who was a warrior.
Yeah,
And yeah, and it's definitely it is. It's a part of growing up too, or at least where I was from. There's it's like you kind of that's how you handled something your disagreements with people, right? Like if you didn't like somebody, you guys would fight, and then you'd be good friends after that. So it's kind of just way you grew up, and it was definitely a cultural thing. It was.
yeah. And one of the things that is interesting about it, and I'm gonna drop a name on you, and this is a
Okay.
guy that I know you already know.
Yeah.
Blake Perry looks like me. He's a white dude. He's a lot taller than me. I'd say I'm prettier than Blake, but
Just a
he
little.
is obviously a very good fighter in his own right.
Yeah.
He has
Beast.
fought on cards on the same cards as you. I know you
Hmm.
guys are in two different weight classes,
Hmm.
and I asked him. I'm like, okay. I was like, you're fighting on like local Hawaiian cards, and you are probably like one of the only white people there. Like, unless they're bringing in some other white dude to fight a Hawaiian guy, I was like, for the most part, like
Yeah. There's a
you're
few
like the
scattered, but yeah.
yeah, like you're the only white dude there. And I was
Yeah.
like, can you talk to me like you being an outsider going in and fighting in front of these people? Like, do you feel like you had to like earn their respect? And he was like, absolutely. But once I did, it was cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And I
Yeah.
wanted to ask about that. Like, can you talk a little bit about just like in terms of like earning respect and like how important is that in your culture and how important is that not only like I know that's like a thing for fighters regardless of where you're from. Like I could be Chinese, you could be Hawaiian, we
Yeah.
may not even speak the same dialect, but like
Yeah.
there's like this like human connection we're gonna have after we fight.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
like
Always.
he was almost telling me he was like I feel like I had to like earn their respect just to be there in the first place.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, I guess as a white guy, maybe it might be harder, right? Because I feel like maybe culturally there's kind of a distrust ingrained in the people. There's that kind of thing. But yeah, the respect is. I mean, it's all about just being humble, not showing out too much, and just kind of because you're always gonna have somebody here where it's like they'll call it, like you think you're big or something like that. You know what I mean? So you're always gonna have somebody who's gonna want to challenge you too. So you kind of gotta just it's good to have your head lay low kind of thing, not draw attention. Because yeah, it's a big thing, especially after fighting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit just being where you are, where you're
Mhm.
located. A lot of Hawaiian fighters end up relocating to the mainland. So we
Mhm.
talked about the Natividads, they're in Arizona.
Mhm.
And that's just right off the top of my head. Like I know there are so
Oh
many
yeah, there's a
more
bunch.
that are all over the place, probably on the West Coast mostly, if I had to
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
I as far as I know, like if we're talking about like high profile people that I am aware of that are still
Hmm.
training in Hawaii, I can only think of two: Max Holloway and Ray Cooper. Those are the only two that
Hmm.
I know that are like high profile, top of the top guys that are still
Yeah.
training in Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
Is it difficult to do that to stay in Hawaii?
Um,
Is it hard or not as difficult as I might think?
for me, I feel like it's not so bad. I think the team where I'm at, I feel like, especially training with one of the best, I feel like I kind of have a leg up. And I can see why a lot of people would leave because about two or three main ones where and you can only fight the same guy so many times, right? So the talent pool can kind of get stagnant.
Right at 125 pounds,
Hmm.
you're a pretty big dude for that weight class. You're five
Oh yeah,
nine. Like most guys are not as tall as you
no,
are,
no, yeah.
and you have like a height advantage over
Hmm.
every dude that you fight.
Hmm.
In the past, because of the shallow talent pool, the have you had to like bounce around different weight classes in order to stay active? Because I would imagine, especially on the AMI scene, I can't think of too many places that's more difficult to fight than Hawaii.
Yeah, oh
Because
yeah,
guys are not, most people are not going to fly from the mainland to go
no,
out for an
yeah,
AMI fight. It's just
yeah.
not going to happen.
It's usually Hawaii guys. Yeah,
And have you ever fought at like 35 or
yeah,
45 before?
yeah. I fought at 35, but usually my 35 fights, I was walking around at like 132. I was weighing in under, but it was just that was mainly before I learned how to cut, right? So I was kind of just going in there, and it was fun. I had good fights at 135.
Is that something that you would entertain again, going
Oh
up to
yeah,
that weight class?
oh yeah. I mean, this fight was actually I wanted to go 135, but they wanted to do a catch weight, so my coach just said it'd be kind of a good test, to see.
So your fight against not Kilmer, Sam Paneitz. I don't know how to say his name,
Yeah,
but
me
we know who
neither.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's at 130 pounds.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so it's at 130 pounds, and let's talk about this guy for a
Okay.
second. Sam, even though I butchered his last name, Sam Paynitz, 1-1, and most people who look at Sam are going to say, he's a run of the mill dude. He's really not that special. A 1-1 record, whatever. That's not true.
No.
If you go back, like you peel back the layer of the onion, look at that kid's career, look
Mhm.
at what he's been able to accomplish. Like he stayed on the AMI scene for a long time. I
Oh yeah,
might even say he stayed on longer than he probably should have.
yeah,
13
definitely.
and 1.
Good
He has
record.
knocked out dudes. He's a very good wrestler. Can you talk to me a little bit about how does a kid from Oahu end up fighting a guy like this in St. Louis? How did this fight come together? This isn't in your backyard,
No.
and you're having to travel quite a ways to fight a
Hmm.
very tough dude. So can you talk a little bit about how the fight against Sam came about, and what are some things about Sam that you think he excels at?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it actually came through because I just recently got together with my manager, maybe about 2, 3 months ago, and he actually messaged me, one of my friends, through Instagram, and he was like, do you guys know anybody that's looking for a manager? And he's kind of done it before, so fast forward, me and him kind of got it linked together, and I think his friend runs the promotion. And I was like,
Sure.
like somebody with around the same amount of fights as me, so yeah, he got it all set up, and it was we had this one, we had another one in Florida, but I brought it to my coaches, and they were like, "Yeah, we think this is a good matchup for you." And the guys, stylistically, it should be good because he's a tough kid, and I mean, I feel like he's explosive. He's got good footwork. It looks like good striking, and he's able to come in good takedowns. Definitely, I feel like he's good pressure. He beats a lot of guys by heavy pressure, and they kind of look like they don't know what to do.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I've picked up on that too. Like his wrestling's very good and his striking's actually very good too. Like that's
Yeah.
one thing about him that also kind of stood out. Like I was very surprised looking back at his history and looking at his other fights that he was
Hmm.
able to like KO the amount of guys that he
Oh
has.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it sounds like, he appears, at least to me, he appears to be very well versed.
Hmm.
Are you nervous? Like, are there nerves going into this one? Because number one, you're fighting outside of home, but
Hmm.
I guess more importantly, it's this. You fought all kinds of tough guys before. I know you have.
Hmm.
You've been in this game for a very long time, but this might be the first situation where people are going to look at your record and be like, this guy's a scrub. He's not any good. But you're a
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu brown belt. You're
Hmm.
very good. You have a long list of accomplishments in this game. Like,
Thank you.
is there a part of you that number one thinks it's kind of like, okay, I keep thinking that. That's fine. But, like, I guess the question then becomes like, number one, do you feel like people are either dismissing you or like are underestimating you? And number two, are there more nerves because you're going into enemy territory for this fight?
Yeah. I feel like they're kind of. I mean, personally, maybe I feel like they're a little dismissive because I know he just had a fight too. So I mean, I feel like maybe he wasn't taking it as seriously, or he's kind of expecting to run through me. That's fine. I don't mind. I always like proving people wrong, and
Right.
it's exciting though. I mean, it's like I don't even think about it. I'm going there to kind of showcase my skills. It's like it could be there, it could be anywhere else. I don't mind. It's exciting. I feel like it gives it a little extra oomph. Like I'm there to show out and kind of
And you
show
haven't
my
been in
yeah.
the ring. You haven't been in the ring in a couple years.
Hmm.
And was that entirely because of coronavirus and just being in
Yeah,
Hawaii?
yeah. It was hard. There was no fights. I had one fight that I was supposed to have before coronavirus hit, and then I injured my rib, so I had to pull out of that one, and then it just was everything went down.
So what have you been up to the past like couple years? Like what have you been doing to I mean obviously you're a prize fighter, so obviously in addition to training you're having to do something else to keep your lights on. Like how are you
Yeah,
doing it?
I was working for a while. I was teaching kids jujitsu.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I was doing private lessons and stuff like that. So that was mainly my main source, running classes, stuff like that.
Is that what you still do? Are you still an instructor?
No, not anymore. Now I've just been doing a lot of like construction removal kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
like labor jobs. Yeah.
I got you. And so when you work in that type of industry, and there's several fighters that do actually.
Mhm.
I know one was a concrete finisher, one was like a framer, one was a roofer. There's another guy that follows me that's like an iron worker.
Okay.
Um, yeah, like it's. I don't know how the heck you do that.
Yeah.
Like working a tough job like that all day and then like going to train. Like, can you talk to me a little bit about like what are some things that you do to like take care of yourself? Like, how are you able to work a job like that 40, 50
Yeah.
hours a week and then work another full-time job which is training because that's like a
Yeah.
full-time job
Oh
in
yeah.
and of
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm thankfully I've actually had some money saved up, right? So for this camp, I've kind of been able to just really focus. I'm still doing the labor, and I'm training 6 days a week, 7 days a week, pretty much. But when I do work and recovery, it's just, I mean, sorry, recovery is the main thing you got to focus on. CBD rubs, nutrition is a big part of it, sleep, maintaining that consistent schedule, and just kind of, really listening to your body. Because it's easy before where you just push, 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 and you think more is more, right? But I feel like the older I got, the more I fought. It was kind of like, okay, you can do more. There's only so much you can do to a point where your body is just going to say, nope, I'm done. And then you're out for a
Sure.
certain amount of time.
Is it fair to say that just really, Joey, because of like where you are at this point in your life,
Mhm.
this opportunity's coming at you at like a perfect time? Because
Oh,
like
yeah.
would you have been ready for a guy like this? Like would you have been ready for fighting a bout under these circumstances when you were say 25, 26 years old
I
as
don't think
opposed
so.
to now?
No, no. I mean, I feel like the nerves would have gotten me a lot worse back then. I feel like that would have been the main thing, but the pressure, and I think I wouldn't have fought, kind of guys that have fought like that. I fought good pressure fighters. I fought guys that got good striking. I fought guys with good wrestling. So it's just, I feel like it kind of built me up to where I am now, all that experience. And yeah, definitely would have
There
been.
are two things that I see just kind of like the outsider looking in. And it's number one, they're
Yeah,
bringing you in because they think this guy's gonna beat you.
of course.
Probably.
Yeah, yeah,
He's a
always.
local kid. He's gonna
Yeah.
sell a ton of tickets.
Hmm.
3/4 of the people that show up are probably going just to see this fight.
Yeah, of
They
course.
probably don't care about the rest of the card.
Yeah,
So
exciting.
you're fighting in front of his people. In a way, I guess this is a good thing though, because all that pressure's on him. It's not on you.
Exactly, exactly.
Like not a lot of people know who you are.
Hmm.
That's a good thing.
It is,
I
yeah,
feel like you're going
yeah.
into this guy's hometown. All expectations are in him. They're gonna
Mhm.
expect a quick finish,
Domination.
like
Yeah,
right. They're gonna
exactly.
expect domination.
Hmm.
So
Love it.
I I think it's like almost like a perfect setup for you in a way. I
Hmm.
really do. And like, does that kind of like excite you? Like, wow,
Oh yeah,
nobody knows who I am.
yeah,
I'm just gonna be able to walk in here and be the fly in the ointment.
Yeah, I love it. It adds a little extra layer of motivation, extra layer of excitement. Definitely. It's always, I feel like I've had a couple of fights like that where they brought me in, they think this guy's gonna run through me, and then I end up proving them wrong. It feels good.
I can only imagine. Why are you such a dangerous matchup for a guy like Sam?
Um, I feel like I have the range. I feel like I have the I can see some holes in his game, I mean, he's good. I definitely think it's not
Sure.
going to be easy, but I feel like I definitely have things I can catch him with that, little holes I'm looking to exploit. But
Without giving anything away, and
yeah.
this would be kind of like, the layman's opinion on how I would like tell somebody to fight you if that were
Mhm.
the case. This is what I would say to a 25er that's fighting you.
Okay.
I would say we're not going to the ground. Fuck that. I was like, that ain't happening. Unless you have an insane jits game, not happening.
Yeah.
We're going to maintain the distance. We're going to use our footwork. Two places we don't want to be. I don't want to be up against the cage. That's bad. We're going to avoid that. We're going to try to keep it in the center as much as we can. Use our footwork, keep him at a distance, and strike him. But the problem with a game plan like that is you're freaking big. Like you have a reach advantage over
Yeah.
him. That's going to be incredibly difficult to do to fight
Yeah.
that style being the shorter guy. I think Sam's like 5'5",
Yeah.
5'6". He's
Somewhere
not a
around
big
there. Yeah.
dude. And you're like 5'9". I
Hmm.
don't know what your reach is. I don't know what Sam's reach is, but I'd be very surprised if he had a reach advantage over you.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
So with that being said, with me just giving you like my standard spiel that probably
Hmm.
99% of everyone would say,
Yeah.
why wouldn't that work against you? Like a game plan like that? Why is he going to have to show more against you rather than just trying to box you to death? Because I feel like
Um,
probably a lot of guys have probably tried to do that against you, and it
yeah. Oh
always
yeah.
hasn't worked out for them when
Yeah.
they
It's been
have.
hard. I mean, I feel like I definitely have good sense of range and timing, I feel like I'm especially being longer, I know he has to come forward. So I know that my shots are going to be there if I set him up right.
Hmm.
And that, and like you said, I feel like that's been a lot of the people I've fought have tried to just make me stand up with them because they think that my stand up is junk, or they think that, they're like, okay, the only way this guy can win is if he takes me down or he smothers me on defense. But I mean, it's just, yeah, that's usually been the game plan. So I feel like I'm used to people trying to do that to me.
Is this one of those fights where, well, number one, I think I'm the only person, full disclosure, if you go on Tapology and you
Yeah.
look at this card and you look at the breakdown of everyone who thinks who's going to win what, I think I'm the
Yeah.
only guy that voted for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
Well,
like
appreciate
98%
that.
of everybody on there was just, they're going with this guy. I
Yeah.
think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Again, it shows that none of the pressure's on you.
Mm-hmm.
I
100%.
said I think it also says something just kind of like where you're at with this. You're willing to get out of your comfort zone for the right fight and to
Mm-hmm.
do what needs to be done to get the dub. And
Yeah.
how do you envision winning on
Yeah.
your for your fight in December
Yeah.
11th? Obviously, we're going with you winning, but like, how do you see that materializing?
I mean, I'd like to take it any way I can get. If I can catch him on the feet and, catch him in a submission or something, I feel like a high percentage would probably be a submission for me. But I
Absolutely.
feel like I'm not picky.
Hey, you know what? A dub's a dub. They don't pay
Exactly.
you any different. They don't pay more for
Exactly.
arm bars. They don't pay
Mhm.
more for guillotines. You gotta do
Exactly.
whatever he's gonna give you, right?
Exactly. I'll take it.
So what's after Sam? So like I know a lot. It's kind of like a taboo question to ask
Hmm.
because so often people are so fixated on the guy in front of them, and
Yeah, of
rightfully
course.
so. But is the idea for you, Joey, long term to stay in Hawaii and then come back to the mainland for your fights?
Yeah.
Is your game plan to maybe relocate to the mainland and then go back home to visit? Kind of like, where are you at when it comes to all that stuff?
I mean, I feel like I like it here. I feel good here, and I feel like my next step. I mean, it's definitely a good name to have on my resume, and I
Yeah,
feel like
absolutely.
I kind of want to maybe run the circuit up there a little bit, kind of showcase my skills and see the guys, just kind of get my name out there. I feel like I'm put in a lot of work. I've had a lot of fights, a long career, and it's just I feel like it's time that I went up to the next level.
Is it harder to get fights because of where you are? So, like for example, like when the promotion finds out, like, no man, you're gonna have to fly me out from Honolulu. It's like, oh Jesus, like I
Oh
don't,
yeah,
like is it a lot more difficult to get fights because of where you live?
it can be. Yeah, I feel like a lot of promotions don't want to just pay for the hotel and for the flight stuff like that. It makes sense. So it's definitely been difficult. But that's one of the good things, though, is I feel like during the pandemic, we've had a lot of our guys have had to go up to the mainland for fights. So we've kind of created these new avenues, right? Where it's like once one guy gets in and he puts on a good performance, a bunch of other guys can come in through that same stream. So one of the good things that has happened is we've kind of
It seems
created
like
more
it's like
networks.
even more difficult just because of being in Hawaii than it would be for people that already live here. It seems like there's
Oh
like a
yeah,
lot more hoops
yeah,
and like a lot more that you have to like go through to like
yeah.
do this.
To get up to the mainland.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, it can be.
Like just the flight from like Honolulu to LA, it's not a short flight. I've done that
No,
flight.
yeah,
That flight sucks.
yeah. It's like 9, 8, 7 hours. It's
Oh, dude,
ridiculous.
it's
It's
terrible.
one of
Like
those.
it's I don't suggest it,
No,
but
no, it sucks.
that's what you're going to be doing.
Mhm.
And do you have to like approach your weight cut a little bit differently with all that travel that you're going to be having to do for this one?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm gonna have to make sure I'm really on top of my nutrition, really on top of my water, hydration, everything like that. Making sure I'm able to train consistently while I'm up there. And I'm gonna have stuff set up. I'm flying up with one of my coaches, so it's gonna be, I'm
When
gonna.
so the fight's on the 11th.
Mhm.
When do you anticipate going out there to St. Louis?
We're leaving. We're gonna get there on a Tuesday.
Okay, and then the
Yeah.
fight's on Friday.
No, Saturday. Yeah.
Even better. So,
hmm
is the idea then to be like how close to 130 pounds are you going to be? Do you think when you get on the flight?
I'd like to say maybe a little like 10, 15 around there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
relatively close, and then it'll
Yeah.
just be like taking a bath and then doing the sauna when you get to
Yeah.
St.
Just
Louis.
sweating it out. Yeah. Bringing my sauna suit and just moving around, making sure I'm dropping calories.
So it should
That'd be
be
fun.
like it shouldn't be that difficult for you.
No,
Like
I feel like I can. Yeah.
this is like stuff that you do all the time anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like cutting to 125, I'd wake up like 132. So I'm used to getting down to that low. It's actually a little better. Actually, would prefer to fight at a 130 weight class if they had it because I feel like it's a good happy medium.
So I was always meaning to ask a guy as big as you, and I know it's kind of funny because like I know you and I are like the same like height,
Mhm.
so it's odd to like talk about somebody my height and say they're huge, but for the weight class you're huge,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and that's a big advantage. But like, do those weight cuts get harder as you get older?
Oh yeah, it's definitely more calculated and precise, and it's a science,
Yeah.
and it's never easy, but you
Mm-hmm.
know that going in, right? You know it's not going to be fun, so you kind of know what to expect after a while. Rough.
Yeah, well, but there's also a benefit of being a flyweight, and I feel like it's a shallow pool.
Mhm.
So while it could be difficult at some levels to get fights, it could be advantageous depending on where you are,
Yeah,
and what promotion you're with, because the 125 class is relatively open. Look at the
yeah.
UFC, for example.
hmm
I don't think it's a big stretch to say like you get on a tear, you get picked up with somebody like LFA, somebody like CFFC,
hmm
you do well there. It's not unrealistic to get a call from like the
Oh no, yeah,
UFC and be like,
not at
hey,
all.
listen, like, what's
I'm ready
up,
to go. Yeah, I like
right?
that.
As
Yeah,
opposed to like being a 55er or a 70er, like you've got to be freaking a
outstanding.
Greek god
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
in the UFC in those classes.
yeah. It's a good point. I never thought about it like that. That is good.
The only thing I don't like is they don't have a 25 class. At least I don't think. I don't think they have a 25 class in Bellator.
No, yeah, I think 35 is
That which
enough.
sucks.
Yeah, that would have been good too.
That kind of
Even like
sucks.
Risen, I don't know if Risen has a 125 or
I,
one has a 125, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because Johnson's there.
Oh, okay, man, yeah,
Yeah, so it's kind of like a good and bad thing. But I will
yeah.
say this: if you're looking to get into the UFC, which I assume I don't know any fighter
Of
that
course, that's
doesn't want to
the
go to
goal.
like the
Yeah.
upper levels, but it's kind of an advantage. And it's one I think that you can take advantage of.
I
And
like that.
when you look at the 125ers that are in the UFC right now, do you look at some of these fights and you're like, man, I want to fight that guy? Or
Oh yeah, all the time.
like
Yeah.
who's somebody in the 125 class that you either a really want to fight, or I'll even take just somebody that you think is amazing, an amazing fighter.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. That's such a deal. I mean, I don't want to be corny and say the champion, but I feel like Brandon Moreno is just his last performance he had with Brandao, not Brandao,
Figueroa.
Figueredo. That fight was insane. I mean,
It
he's
was
such a insane. I was like, he's such a dangerous striker to fight somebody like that and to put on a performance like that. It just goes to show, like, you can be so far in a different place a year before, and your whole life has changed with just a few good performances.
I really like very very curious when it comes to 125. I'm very curious to see how the Cody Garbrandt thing's gonna go
So that's gonna be a good one.
because
Yeah.
he's fighting Kai Kara France
Ooh, that's a good fight for him.
in
Bangers.
December.
Hmm.
I want to say it's the same day you fight, something like that.
I
I'm
think so.
pretty
Yeah, the
sure.
11th, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so he's going to 25.
Ooh.
Do you think that's going to work out for him?
I feel like, I mean, from what I've heard he walks around, he's kind of a small 35er. He
Yeah,
walks around in maybe like high 40s. I think
right.
he could, I feel like he definitely has the power. I think he's going to keep that power into 125. And I don't know. I think that's a good matchup for him.
Do you think he can win that fight?
I think so. I think if he fights like when he fought Dominic Cruz,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I feel like he gets really emotional sometimes and just tries to bang it out and gets in the bad position. But that's who he is. But definitely, I feel like that's a good matchup for him.
I have him winning this fight.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would say like if he had to fight like Smolka at 125. I don't
Ooh,
know if
that'd be rough. Yeah.
I think I think I'm pretty confident in saying Smolka would win
I
that
think so too.
fight
Yeah. He's taken down as
because he's
well.
freaking huge. He's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
guy that's freaking huge.
Oh yeah.
I hope he fights soon. He was supposed to fight Sean O'Malley, but
Was it? Oh,
yeah,
uh,
yeah, he got hurt.
I heard right. Yeah. He's good, man. That's
Yeah.
Gumby.
Does he train in Hawaii?
For a while he did, and there were some times where he would come down to our gym and train with him. It was fun. He was like a Gumby.
Dude, that guy is a G.
Yeah.
Smolka, man, if you're listening to the show, you should be on it too. Joey, before I let you go, I want to give you the opportunity. I know that you have a lot of people that are in your corner. You have a lot of coaches, teammates, sponsors, etc. I want to give you the opportunity to shout out any of those people or any of your
Okay.
sponsors that help
Yeah.
make this happen.
I just want to give a big shout out to my manager, Ed, UCB Sports Management, New Life, New Leaf CBD for keeping me recovered. All my teammates at Gracie Technics, all my strength and conditioning, Darren Yap at Tactical Strength and Conditioning, and my wife, kids for putting up with me. Rough. And you, Matt, for having me on. I appreciate it, bro.
Oh, always, always. So, make sure you hit up the Last Baron on
Yeah, I like
Instagram.
that.
Hit that up.
I'm an
Uh,
in.
Joey von Blankenburg. Joey, good luck on your fight, and
Appreciate it,
thanks
man.
thanks for being on the show. And we'll
Yeah,
do it again soon.
let's do it, brother. Thanks for having me.